сайту это Ливанди на английском. About.
Дальше всего.
Наши партнеры.
Боевик, триллер. Ну это же не триллер, это триллер. Боевик, как фильм. Фичер.
Блокбастер. Я так думаю, что.
Ну, хотя блокбастер, наверное, может быть какой-нибудь такой, не обязательно боевик. Action movie.
Экшен мой, экшен фильм.
Мелодрама какая-нибудь, романс фильм.
Извините, у нас просто идет прямая трансляция.
А, Добрый день, дорогие друзья. Буквально нам 5 минут дождаться, потому что большая территория, чтобы оповестили еще гостей, которые сейчас к нам идут. Буквально 5 минут подождем и начинаем. Спасибо большое.
Ladies and gentlemen, our session will start in 5 minutes.
Добрый день, дорогие друзья.
Good morning, dear friends. Thank you for your hospitality on the Bashkortostan land. Now our subject is the Centers of Creative Industry and the life of Russian cinema industry, Cinema Cluster. Cinema Cluster is a new life. This project and producers and participants of this project, they came here to see you. Please greet them. Ilya Churin, Georg Andreasyan, and Ivan Lapin. So this will be, we'll have the following format. So I have a very free-willed moderation, and I think that the guys will tell us about their companies and will present two projects which have been developed during these 2 years and which are planned to have their first night here in the Republic. And then Ilya will tell about the concept of the cinema cluster and what we'll have to implement together with a big team of our friends in Bashkortostan. So, Ivan Lapatin, Livandia Cinema Company. Good afternoon, dear friends. We are glad to see you. I will tell about our company, about our successes. But first of all, I would like to thank you for your hospitality, that you came here to this conference hall, and you have chosen our section among the others to speak about such an interesting subject as the cinema. Let me introduce myself. For 20 years, I've been working in the cinema industry. I'm a member of the Union of Cinema Workers. And I participated in Cannes Festival, in the competition of Cine Fondación, in another year towards the official competition program. And so we have passed all this. And we came to the conclusion that festival cinema is a separate direction, and what inspires us, it's the genre films, films that are interesting for millions and millions of cinema lovers. So we've got a lot of awards at different festivals, and from our big achievements, this is the auditorium which has seen, this is My Father the Chieftain, which was shown last year. Igor Konchalovsky was the director of this project, and more than 1 million people watched this movie. Then we have a company which is called the World of Festivals, which helped the films to get to different festivals all around the world, and we are members of the top 10 best advertising producers. We work with big brands. We have our TV channel. You can subscribe. We'll show you the interior life of cinema, and we have a YouTube channel, more than 1 million of subscribers, and we place the licensed cinema content on our resource. So this is a very significant figure. So among the movies, we have this My Father the Chieftain. Then there's another movie called Make a Step, and Selfie Mania with Alexei Muravyev. Serials like Extrasensorics and The Love of the Grey-Eyed King. We take some videos with Pavel Durov, and we have a lot of short movies created by our companies and which represented at different cinema festivals. Right now, I would like to attract your attention to the projects like Saint Anne. And before I tell about this project, let's see the teasers that we prepared together with Alexei Vorobyev.
Можно звук?
You can put on the sound.
Прошу прощения, ребята, можно с самого начала и звук включить?
Please restart it and with the sound.
Красивые кадры, да.
It's beautiful show.
Неизведанное.
Unknown. It attracts, and the human reaches everything which around him to get the glory, ambitions, the reasons for many discoveries and tragedies. The story that created a legend. So you can try to save yourself.
Скрывает.
What other mysteries are covered by the transpolarian nature? So we open something bigger for us. Are you ready to know the truth hidden by the permafrost? The life is in the hands of the higher forces. Is it just a game of fortune? But there's a story, the voyage, eternity long, Saint Anne, the way to the south.
Да, этот проект. Можно презентацию включить, Святая Анна?
Yes, you can put on the presentation of this movie. This project is related to a rather famous person, Georgy Brusilov, who 100 years ago decided to
В путешествие на своей
go on trip in his boat from St. Petersburg to Vladivostok
северный путь.
via a northern path.
Беды.
Nothing predicted troubles, but their boat was blocked by the ice. Here you'll see the love story and different trials and tribulations within the team because they need to spend the winter over there. You see the temperature in July over there is +5, and in winter they have is polar night and more than 125 days a year. It is the length of the night, and our heroes, they have to stay in their boat. There's a lot of conflicts and love trials. Part of the team refused to stay on boat, and they go to the bigger earth, have a group of 5 people that decided to walk from there. And you see, this is their struggle with the elements, with the nature. There are polar bears that attack them. So these are incredible adventures that attract our attention. Love stories, stories of their relations, stories of their treasons. And in the end, our heroes, they die, and only 2 characters remain
Возвращаются на Большую Землю.
who return to the mainland, and
Которая наполнена
sometimes after that. So this is a story which is full of incredible emotions. We would like to make a very big movie about our country, about our heroes, about what we lack right now, what we'll work with. And I hope that this project will be a serious start for success, not only in Russia, but in other countries as well. I would like to complete Ivan because this project was born in the St. Anna's Museum, which is in the city of Ufar. And when years we attended a forum, don't remember the name, we came to this museum and we were very much surprised how the people of Bashkortostan and the history of Bashkortostan is linked to this story, because the ghost of this boat, Saint Anne, still appear before many people were there, and there are many evidences of people who follow this path. And so Saint Anne appears like a kind of a symbol. And either this ship let them go in or not. And in this museum, when we visited it, as far as I know, this museum was open at the personal request of the head of the Republic, and me, together with Alexei Golubev, the video director who makes very big state-level festivals, like the Scarlet Sails in St. Petersburg. Me and Ivan, and with a team of producers, we've been working for a year on this project, and there are other people who develop the Arctic offshore territories. In fact, this project is very complicated from the point of view of its production, because we'll need to build settings here, and we'll need to shoot in the Arctic region. But it's incredible story. Unfortunately, Alexei Golubev is not with us this morning, but all our hearts are with him. We can present a short teaser for this story. Two expeditions condemned to death. Destinies related. The story of struggle for their life. Story of love which can overcome everything. Through time, you can save their inheritors. Saint Anne, Path to the South.
Спасибо, да, по атмосфере это так.
Thank you. It's a Russian survivor, which will keep you tense till the end.
В нашем проекте.
Ivor, please tell about our project.
Ну, также хочу по поводу этого проекта поблагодарить.
Regarding our next project we would like to present, first of all, I would like to thank Mr. Aminev. He's the General Director of
Скажет уже Гемонтон.
And Givant Andreasyan will tell us about the next project. He's one of the major Russian film producers in our country, and I think he will present himself better than I can do. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I visited your city about 20 years ago. I'm from Kostanay, and then by chance I happened to become a Muscovite. Therefore, I was here. I lived here. I see that things changed a lot. Everything became more beautiful. Regarding my film company, a couple of words. First of all, what we have just seen, I am an experienced producer. There are different types of producers. I'm an experienced producer, and I can tell you that you have to get really warm because you have decided to tackle this difficult job. I always say there are two types of film productions, clean and dirty one. When I mean dirty, it means military, historical, because people get sick and they do not even survive. And there are clean movies, comedies, adventures. Therefore, I wish you success in your work. And now about my company. I have just to understand how to click slides. Our Andreasyan Brothers film company. We are very similar. Sometimes people mistake my brother and myself, but I think that over time we will be more different. Over time, when we get older, probably people will distinct us. Briefly about our work. More than 20 TV series and full-scale movies are produced. As spiritual gastarbeiters, we keep on working, and we are afraid of stopping working. It's like immigrants complex. You probably know all these hit movies. We produced these films, these projects for various streaming services, Oka, Life by Someone. It's about hardships of women's lives. And I would like to dwell on these movies. And later on, I will tell you about the project you might be familiar with. Unforgiven. This is the story of Vitaly Kaloyev, whose family died in an airplane crash in the Boden Lake. And this project was hugely successful, both artistically and commercially. And I have some expressions. We produce a lot, but there are some movies that will outlive us. Another film is Earthquake. It's very close to me. Ruben Vezdechan was my co-producer. I remember this Earthquake, and he was working with the sequela, or he was trying to clear the rubble. And it was not about business. We just got together and we said we have to do it. And the next project is the story about Damir Yusupov, who saved people because he was able to land the plant in the field of corn. Tatarstan and Ekaterinburg are territories number 2 and number 3 in terms of box office sales. And it's really gratifying because we have this national factor working, because people have national pride, and Tatarstan supported its hero, and Ekaterinburg joined. And yes, Moscow is number 1, but Ekaterinburg and Tatarstan are number 2 and number 3. even though one might expect that St. Petersburg would take the second place. But here we had this national factor taking place. And I hope that regional movie industry, since we know that there are multiple nations in Russia, I hope that regional movies will become more known. This film was watched by 150 million. It is now displayed in 3 streaming services: Premiere, EV, and Oko streaming services. I'm not going to tell the total amount of viewers was 1.5 million viewers, but I think we can reach 20 million. This is the story of a boy who had no chances to become a pilot, but eventually he was able to overcome all the life hardships, and it was his destiny to save so many lives. And we have wonderful relations with David and Damir. This is good deeds that we do, and when this good story turns into good business, it's not for business, of course. It's for our spirit, for our biography, for karma, even though I do not like this word. America Goodbye, this is pathetic name, but it's a movie about immigrants from our country who I have visited dozens of European countries in the US, and we see this unification of people, Russian-speaking people abroad. This is a very unique situation. People miss their country a lot, and this anguish is very specific notion for Russian language. And this is the story when people find each other, even though they had little chances to meet in real life, but they miss their motherland so bitterly, and they get together. And we had huge number of viewers, even pirates also used this movie, and our former citizens from abroad also thanked us for this movie. And we were collecting these stories for several years, for 7 or 8 years, and we met various people for whom the word motherland means a lot more than motherland. And when you see third-generation immigrants and their children still know Russian, you have this inner feeling, and you wonder how you were able to do that. Because when I raised my children, it's really difficult to teach them Armenian. But when you live in the US, in America, it's 100 times more difficult to preserve your national language. And this is very personal and very important movie for me. Champions is another story. This is also spirit uplifting story. Each story, this is movie of short stories, but each story deserves full-scale film. But when you combine small stories from swimming and other sports, and you create some kind of event, and Champions is a great movie. I know there are lots of this film was widely shown at schools. Mothers, we have 2 parts, Mothers and Happy New Year Mothers. This is a unique project when we got together, different producers, and we're trying to decide how much money we are ready to lose. And we decided that we can lose 35 million rubles just for the good, because we want to say stories about mothers. But God blessed us, and we earned a lot, even though we expected to lose. And in the second story, we approached Alain Delon and asked him to to portray himself. And after 2 days, he agreed to take part in this project. And we were hysterical. We couldn't believe it. And we had a connecting person, and he was his maybe agent, and he was so perplexed because Alain Delon said yes, because he said no to many other things. And therefore, we went to Paris, we hired local people, and 10 minutes to 9, all French team, they had wine in their hands, and we were thinking whether they're going to work. And everyone said, oh, Alain Delon is not going to come. He hasn't signed the agreement with you. He won't appear. But we said, no, it's impossible. Well, eventually we become so relaxed. Alain Delon is angry with this world. He does not respect this young generation. He doesn't want to live with this young generation. He's very tough old man. But we see a car approaching. His assistant comes out, opens the door, and at 10 past 9, Alain Delon is here. And he said, and Alain Delon said, be sure I'm not late. I saved you 50 minutes because I applied makeup at home. And then we started shooting this film, and he didn't take any money. This was free story for him. And I tried to figure out for a long time why is that. And before primary show, I sent him a letter to invite him to Russia to present the film, and he replied very short answer: I will come if you show this film in Armenia, but this is really expensive thing. Okay. We decided to do that anyway. We went to Armenia. President of Armenia met him. Catholicos, a spiritual leader, met Alain Delon. And when Alain Delon came to the hotel, there were 500 people there greeting him. And he said, this is why I came. I will call my friends Charles Aznavour and Michel Legrand, because they were cheating. They were deceiving me for many years. They said that no one knows me in Armenia. Well, we had 2 wonderful days in Armenia. Then we took Alain Delon and came to Moscow. And once we were in the hotel, and Alain Delon said, well, you know, I didn't have time to say important words to my mother while she was alive. I sent her money, but when she was gone, when she passed away, I realized that I didn't have any discussion with my mother at all. And all these short novels in this movie, this is my tribute to my mother. This is how I figured out this puzzle, how and why Alain Delon gave his consent. After this movie, I received thousands of messages, and I realized that this is our mission, because some man said, when I watched this movie, I realized that I have to reestablish contact with my mother, whom I didn't see her for 8 years. And so we do have to build our own life, but we still have to keep in mind our mothers. We have to do something that will outlive us. And I encourage everyone to live in a way so that people would remember you after you are gone. This is a very brief story, what we have done, and what is the most important thing that we are doing right now. We have several seasons of Manuna TV series, Manuna, this by Narineb Garan. When I took this book, I approached streaming services with this book. I wanted to transform it into TV series, and they said no one would be interested. But I I argued, we are very nostalgic about our past, and our people are very nostalgic about our past. And this Soviet past of Armenian family, of Jewish family, it would be very interesting. I invested my own money because I realized that I wouldn't find any sponsors for that. But the first season hit so many records. Now we have the second season, the third season, and this turned out to be a huge success. We are preparing three full-scale movies and a cartoon. So this is very important movie. And parents try to sit their children to watch this TV series because this is the only way they can describe their own childhood without telephones, without their fathers that lived at work, deficit. And this is so. This TV series shows so beautifully how we lived during Soviet times, and children understand how their parents lived. This year we are planning to work on the stories of Deniska and also down the wonderful river, Bayuspensky, Uncle Fyodor, dog and cat and dog, and some other projects. So these are projects for our children because Hollywood left us, and Hollywood was not the best raiser for our kids. But while we haven't screwed everything, we have to use this time to create something for our children, to use it to raise our children properly. And this is our common duty. And if possible, I would like to show you the next project. I will briefly describe it. It's easier to tell you about what has already been done, and it's difficult to describe what is going to be done. And we have a wonderful, incredible Soviet Union hero, Shey Muratov. And to say briefly, I think it's time has come, and I think this is my strength. I am a representative of national minority, ethnic minority, and I understand that this is really important. This is a uniting thing. This is the story of generations. People of different ethnic backgrounds were saving each other's lives, were sacrificing their lives for others. At war, people were writing letters to their wives and said, if I die, you call our boy with the name of my comrade. And we have to approach these stories in a proper way. We have to make movies for our future generations so they would understand why we should stick together. And I think this is a horrible thing that we lost a lot. And when we create these films, we can use modern language to explain it to our future generations, the importance of being together. Briefly, you all may know this soldier had 15 decorations, military decorations, but even when he was kept captive, he didn't betray anyone, and he died as a hero. We could have different attitudes because life is not as difficult as then. But I realized that life is always the same, but our values were loftier. the, that generation had different values, and they were heroic not because of their stupidity. No, they were not stupid, but these were different people. They had different ideas, different perceptions of this life. And our mission, our task is to show not only the wartime history when they were dying like as heroes, fighting with Nazi Germany. And our task was to show his childhood, his upbringing, because we know what hardships people had, because they had dire straits, and these families had very small places to live, but they were able to raise heroes. And I also wanted to show these ethnic, national nuances. Understandably, we cannot avoid the representatives of Bashkiria. I am, as Armenian, can describe my nation, but as a film producer, when I have to describe the hero from other nation, I need people from other nation to tell me how to do it right, how to touch the souls and hearts of our viewers. And this is gonna be a movie not for one generation. It should be a movie for several generations. And we really want, after each important combat, we will dive into his childhood, into his adolescence, into his relationship with his parents, and we will unfold this story. We will explain why he became a hero, and using his past, his childhood, we will create this family story. We will not only show the horrors of war, but also, and we try to explain why people sacrifice their lives, because this is what in their souls. And I think that's really important thing, important mission. And this works will outlive us. It will be our legacy. And as a film producer, I create another project, War and Music. This is about great patriotic war, about 3 Armenian wedding musicians. I try to tell the story of my nation, because 300,000 Armenians died in this war, and this is my tribute to them. We know that we had multiple nations in this war fighting together, and there were stories about Georgians, about other nations, but we lacked stories about Armenians. We use our own money for that, and over 2 years we are working on this project calmly, tranquilly. Not all the projects are made for money. Some people ask me, you created the film about pregnant man. What was your purpose? Why you did that? And I explained, well, I did it just to entertain you, to earn money, and I always tell, if you want to make some great project, you have to make some 5 average projects just to earn money, to feed yourself, to feed your company. I think that Bashkortostan has to have this kind of movie, and I encourage everyone to unite. I regard it as a producer. I say that I'm ready to tackle these projects as a film producer, but I think there is also higher value in this film because Bashkortostan needs such kind of movies about its ethnic heroes. Thank you very much, all our partners of these projects, because when we started working on Saint Anna, we had feedback from the leadership that there is national hero and there is no good movie about this hero. And I tried to look for producers so to preserve this national specifics. And I know that Gevorg is making his own war drama about Armenian national heroes. And I think that he is able to do that, to feel this national aspect of this movie. His unique personality. While we were searching some documents, Germans were creating legends about this hero, because when we had tanks, battalions, and Bashkirs on horses were attacking Germans, and this was so incredible. Germans could not understand who are these insane people who wild division. They were attacking, they were dying, but Germans couldn't understand why they do that. And I hope that together with our colleagues, we will be able to create this joint project. And now I would like also to tell you that we have been preparing this project for a year. We have our teamwork, our team. We have been discussing things, making some preparations. And at some point, we realized that we have this union of strong producers, and we are approaching the creation of a new cinema industry. And at some point, I approached Ilya Bachurin. He is leader of creative industries development in our countries. He creates creative industry weeks, and he is organizing all these things in our country. And together with Fyodor Bondarchuk, they have created the first private film and television studio, Glav Kino, and this union of big personalities, it generates the concept of cinema cluster in Bashkortostan Republic, and we can attract big media groups, major players of the market. And I say, Ilya, the Bashkortostan is very hospitable. It is open to new ideas. It is ready to develop new ideas. There is 2 hours flight between Sibay and Ufa, and it's easy to forward creative investment here. And Ilya will present probably the first presentation, top-level presentation. Some idea and partners will be described, and we will continue working on this presentation. This is about cinema cluster, new life of Russian cinema industry in Bashkortostan.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me into your team. The personal thanks, and thanks you, Bashkortostan. I'm starting to fall in love. I had the same story with various regions like the Altai. I didn't expect to have something from this region, and now this is one of my favorite places on earth. And then when I cross some kilometers on this land, so I have these sparks in my soul that will then give a bigger fire afterwards, just to it's impossible to understand this feeling. It is not possible to understand fast the culture, the epic tales of this territory and people, and the idea of a cluster, a cinema cluster, of creative cinema cluster. I will tell in details why I call it like that, the name of the project. So it requires a very deep understanding and should be done by the people who live on this territory, and our task of our group is to support them with my maximum dive into this culture and understanding of all the aspects of being in this territory. Only like this you can create something useful. When I look at the figures, I cannot understand how I passed by and this region before, and now this is the first time of my being here. It's one of the most powerful republic, and in cinema there's a big cinema production. Let's start this presentation. It was kind of an introduction. So 2 words why I'm here, the Glav Kino and the experience we've got with Fyodor Bondarchuk. Having spent a lot of years of our life, and probably we supposed a little different development of this project in comparison with what it is now, but at the same time, so we understand that our work invested into this project during 10 years, everything was done right and everything is good. And in particular, it's very interesting for me, the creative industry, because I'm a participant of the cinema industry, which makes the Creative Cinema Week. And Dmitry is the head of this team, so we do not separate the tasks among us, and we understand that only together, only combining in a very thorough and accurate way, it's like a puzzle. We can make every next event, and so we've got 2 national awards in the field of creative industries. So, and in the end, the creative industry, cinema, they combine here in Bashkortostan in a certain idea, which in its turn has all the chances to become a big project and a successful case, like Glav Kino is the biggest cinema studio in the territory in Europe. And now we have a possibility, and more than this, we have a necessity to create here in the territory of Bashkortostan not only a film studio, not only a creative cluster, because there are a lot of film studios. So we have, after Glav Kino, there are some more film studios. So it's a very common notion, and we need to step aside and have a new vision of it. Just not to repeat the previous paths. So this is the approach that we have selected, that we've thought what to begin with, how to consider the project of the creative cluster, probably to add a little bit of film studio, a little bit of project combining these functions. And here in Bashkortostan, we want to build a site, the core of which could be the constant development. We all understand how fast the time flies, and it is shown in many processes, in the technologies. So 15 years ago, we didn't have these instruments, and we could only watch movies in a very small amount of theaters. But now people watch their movies on any screens, and the these changes become the sense of their life, and when starting a big project aimed at innovations and development, and putting development aside, we just try to set a construction, and you stay in the time when you invented this construction and fixed it. And the aim of the cinema cluster could be only a constant development, constant searches, constant search for new technologies, and the most sophisticated development of new technologies. Even it sounds a little bit ambitious. And here I have a link between the cinema and creative industries, which are in the number of 16. Before there were only 14. So this
креативных индустрий.
Cinema is one of the greatest creative industries, along with the design, architecture, urban development. In fact, everything which is around us is related to the creative industries, because design is present everywhere.
Медиа, которые являются
And media, which are also part of creative industries, and one could have focused this creative cluster
любой из них.
in any of them, but cinema is better, is the best. I will explain why. Because cinema, it's the possibility to create an imaginary space,
В кинотрадициях
which is called a cinema universe. It's kind of a shell which would satisfy the requirements of constant development, the space where which is living. It is an ideal coincidence. So we speak about the creative cluster, and I will tell you in details about it, what it means, in my opinion, and in the opinion of my colleagues. It will be done, it will be wrapped in the cinema as the most authoritative, and so I do not manage to switch the stuff. No, it doesn't work.
скоренько потыкать. Ладно,
Да, с
кликер не
самого начала,
работает.
если можно.
So from the very beginning, please put it.
Давайте дальше. Ну, собственно,
А можно нам кликать просто презентацию? Это важно.
So it's important to click presentation. So, and if you can switch it from your computer, then I will just tell. Probably we'll restart it, because I've been talking too long.
подход, мне кажется,
It's very important to explain the approach, because we do not have many specific things. These specific things should be developed in a very thorough way, based on analysis, based on the best world experience.
А можно нам тогда кликать презентацию?
So, can we click in the manual mode?
ну, давайте пойдем, пока не получается с картинками, ничего страшного.
So, it's a mere trifle. So the pictures will come afterwards.
В чем должна быть новизна еще?
What should be the novelty of this concept, of the subject? So you create the space, and you set the subject matter, and it's better than the space which is stuffed with the senses. So, thank you.
Так. Сердце Башкирии.
So, heart of Bashkortostan, I didn't tell this important thing. It's just a working name. I don't know whether the management and people would authorize us to use it, but in general, taking into account the importance of the creative industry, this name could match the status, the very high status of this project. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense, because some simple professions, simple trades, they go by. And on this side, the novelty, the innovations could be developed in a different way, could have a different development. Here, there will be a very big cinema part, which will mean the creation of a film studio of a new type, which means that very serious people like Sarek and Givon who come and make big movies, because today a film studio has to have a larger range of products and be oriented towards those who produce something on their own. UGC, it's a very big notion. And this is what the cinema producers with cinema networks, they struggle for. So this users' content produced by people for themselves and for their social networks, for their audiences, it's a very important thing, important part. And this users' content can be of different types. It could be more professional, which could be have a monetization through advertising, and there are different methods, and it is oriented towards a wider range of cinema projects. Thus, we need to stick to this approach, including this educational and tutorial part of it. If the space is open for every young in the first place and not so young person just to spend time to know what it is all about, if, for example, a person could be a mechanic all his life, and during the recent years he have been hearing something about the creative industry, and he has to have a very clear idea of what this creative industry are and what possibilities and opportunities he would find there, how he can make money out of it. This is not so simple, but from that part, it's quite a realizable task. Also, it's a very interesting subject for me, and I can speak for a long time for this, but our format does not suppose us it. So the tutorship is one of the most important components in this creative cluster. It's evident. According to the experience of creating creative clusters in other regions, we understand the online part should be put first, because the displacement could be useless if the objective, the aim is just for the possibility to contact each other. So there's it's not such an important stuff right now. They can contact through other means. And in this cluster, many other experts could be invited who share their experience and their knowledge on the various other platforms right now. This could be, this online work could be started very fast. And it's important that in this project, before implement the online component, to be able to create the backbone of this project, because the most important is the community of people who are aimed at some creative tasks, and this could be started in online mode very fast. It requires efforts and resources, but it's very probable that this part will start earlier, but it is one of the important components of this project, the heart of Bashkortostan. What else? This creative space cannot exist, especially with the cinema subjects. It cannot be created in separation from the other world trends, despite the very complicated and difficult political situation in different world regions. The humanity is united, and this union should be supported regardless of the other facts that can separate one nation from others. These horizontal links are so important that even the most powerful world leaders cannot disconnect people. They cannot make it in a way that the cinema would become the place of struggle. And we declare today the number of certain people represented by the biggest world cinema powers like China, India, Sri Lanka, Turkey, Arab Emirates, Brazil. These are the names where we have some person, and Eric Roberts, he accepted to become, and people of my age know him, and younger people, they know his talented daughter. And Eric Roberts, he had to come here, and my colleague is now working with Eric Roberts and with other Hollywood stars, and who are quite loyal to what is happening in Russia, and they do not understand what happens in other parts of the world. But we didn't have enough time to enable his visit, including with us. But when we showed him the site, and when he learned about the investment forum in Bashkortostan, he was very inspired. But he's also one of our friends there, just like Jean-Claude Van Damme, who's now is in Asia, and he also cannot be together with us. And other media personalities like Dmitry Nagiev, Ivtsov, and others, they all had to come, but in May the film shooting season started for them, and we'll try to bring them, either all of them or separate person by person, to your republic. And during this presentation, we also discussed it with the managers of the cinema industry. Many of them are located now in Cannes, the cinema market. But so they still participate in this presentation, and they have to come there and to be presented at the cluster site. And I hope that they would work here. It's a very complicated task to organize the shooting process, which requires different decisions and ideas and concepts. And speaking in terms of the industry, when coming here, we speak about the heavy content and about the activities of the film shooting site. And the start of such a film studio is very complicated. If you remember, I said that the Glavkino was the first film studio opened after Mosfilm, not because people are lazy, because it's really so it was beyond the it was under the break-even point, and it's always in a very difficult position. It's very difficult to make money with the cinema, but there are other possibilities. There are technologies which facilitate making the films. And my neighbors in Yakutia, they showed how this could be done, and the Yakut cinema now is have a very high reputation all over the world, so they just do not. And there's people from festivals. They stand in queue in line, waiting for the good film to be brought there. Because people are boring, they cannot go somewhere to be entertained, and the movies that were shot in the amateur format before being addressed to their people they're surrounded by them. But now this experience can be extended and reproduced in a wider scale, because people in Bashkortostan, they love their culture and they do care about it. And only on this platform this could be built. Without it, there's no way to create a national cinema. That is why the project has to start this process. And Alexei, he's the pioneer over there. He spent a lot of his time to form this idea, and I'm sure that it will live and it will fly, and I will support it. And Fedor Bondarchuk, Eric Roberts is the personality of the project. We'll see. There's a lot of people who are ready to join the project. And those who were not mentioned, just believe me, people will follow a good idea. And it's very important to have this national core to preserve the objectives, to set them forth in a very neat and thorough way, linked to the national agenda. That is why so we want to create a tool and not just to realize these activities. We need to create a tool to and to arm the local producers with this tool. I will not tell why it is so important, just based on my experience of work with the regions. Now there are more than 100 creative clusters in Russia, and it's high time to transform the nature of their activities. And here we will use all our experience, all the experience existing in Russia, which is enormous, which is systemized, and just to make one step beyond. This is the objective that we set. And speaking about the site, Bashkortostan is the ideal site from the point of view of its culture and from the point of view of the love of simple people to it. And here I would like to highlight the role of the management of the Republican administration. These all are the reasons to make such cluster here. So the aims of this project, the goals of it, so the heavy content produced by big players, then the consumers' content, we need to teach people to explain how to create their own content, and these people afterwards will be able to become the participants of the cinema market. The use of new technologies of content and their implementation in the first place, one of the very important objectives. And here we need to have new tools which will create new possibilities for self-expression in a creative and not so creative way. And in general, the constant work with the personnel and the format of an incubator. So this is the first phase of this mechanism, which could be represented, which produces ideas and then it could be continued by the participants of the industry. And as it was said in the beginning, the community is the core of the project. This is the main core of it. So we need to move forward. So about the development of this project.
Самого
Apart from the project,
развиваться
which will start being developed after the first decisions taken and after landing all these ideas on the site and the materialization, another part should be developed, the digital one. This is the educational and tutorial platform, which should be useful by itself, and it will start working even before the creative space. The social co-working, it is a possibility of the people living in the region to join it with their own projects, and I think that should be implemented first points. And then the entertainment and recreational complex, just for those who do not have a clear idea about what is happening, but in the future could become the part of the community. And we are ready to develop 3 strategies: short-term, medium-term, and long-term strategy.
сейчас дальше это будет проект.
So this is how we presented it. Then the project will be finalized. So if you support it, and if the Republican administration, so I will like to add something. It's very global, but if we make it a little bit narrower,
Это позволит
this will
образование внутри стран.
allow educate younger people
Вас уверяют,
to find it interesting or uninteresting,
но
because 50% of people, they have a very big potential, but they do not know where to go. But when they have such a bridge, and it doesn't matter whether it's on my level or higher or lower, if there are people who are ready to share their knowledge, it's very inspiring, first of all, and then with these important people, let me call them,
и манить
we can
вот в свою сторону.
attract younger people on our side. Right now, there are a lot of possibilities for it. For a child, even is 15 or 12
Небольших
year old, through this communication. So I would like to. It is very important to give a dream to a child, because there are people who have 18, the age of 18, and they do not have this dream. And he wants to enter university, and he doesn't know why, just because his parents wanted it. And we need to create a platform useful for these children. They should try this, try that. But at a certain moment, you can say, so I would like to become an operator, and now I need to go to Moscow, to St. Petersburg. We need to give a dream to this generation.
остался без мечты. Я благодарен.
And if this was not the club of married people, I wouldn't have this dream. But now it doesn't work in the same way. New social lifts are necessary. We need to create them. We need to invent them. Because everything which I started has its finish. Maybe this KVN, this could be restarted afterwards, but we need to speak to the younger generation in their own language. We can give them a profession, because a blogger and TikToker is not a profession. It's just a hobby which should be transformed into something else. And if it doesn't happen, they will follow the wrong way. I will tell about some terrible reality.
Сейчас этого же нету. Сейчас
So now there's a quite low attitude towards the Russian cinema. But 15 years ago, it was not so.
Владивосток
Because from Vladivostok to Kaliningrad, people enter different higher education institutions, and after 5 years of studies, they do not understand why they studied, and these people they start thinking that somewhere in Moscow they hate these people resembled in Moscow, and when now they have this possibility,
А мы-то здесь уже делаем.
and so they become kinder, because now the society is calmer, and because these young people, they have possibility in their region, in their city, in their town, to express themselves and to tell about themselves. So this is the very good platform. This is the possibility for the generation. Thank you. And I also want to add that it should be done right now, and we should not lose this chance for the young people who will make or produce cinema in the near future. And it's very important to prevent them from leaving the country,
Лет 10-15
from leaving their hometowns and cities,
тут все будет хорошо.
because
Что ты мог делать?
people before thought that their real life is in Moscow and nothing could be done in their hometowns, but now they can make something important at the place they are living,
В каждом регионе.
because in every region there is such a possibility, and you work with these people in a more accurate way. So it's very important to have in each region a creative cluster which prevent the young generation, the younger people, from leaving their hometowns and cities, for them to have a showcase. And this cluster should become a showcase for them, enabling their first steps. And if people, they are able to do something in their hometown, they will not live, they will not go to Moscow or elsewhere.
Якутский кинематограф. Я несколько раз был в Якутии, на моих глазах я видел.
I would like to add about Yakutia. I was bringing master classes and lectures there, and what we try to do, we try to educate people. But one thing I'd like to mention, what it all reminds me, in my native country, Armenia, we have two more organizations. This is very unique case when they started this project in Yerevan and then in Moscow. What is it about? 10 to 12-year-old children come, and they have tons of options of what you can do. Cartoons, it's all these activities for children are free, and people from different regions, from villages, and in these centers for children, they allow us to find talented children. And over 10 years, this organization was able to create something which you can't achieve at schools. This is the space for children to find to find their potential, and not any region can do that. These centers for children, they attract people, then they attract children, and they help children unfold their potential. And this was done many years ago in cinema industry, and we have to, and we need this format. and we should be able to do it here in Russia, and we can propagate this example in many different regions. We have this inner confidence, and I will explain you why. There's a very interesting fine-tuning. When Igor Karachin, the head of I shared my idea, it would be good if we could. And he said, what do you need? Some kind of support. And he said, film rebate. He said, okay, you will have this rebate. And when you share your idea and you inspire people, and some people they get inspired, they catch this idea, and they give you tools, they give you people, and they tell you, okay, I will make a phone call, and I will and you create communications, you establish communications, you connect with people, new people add, and we can create, we would like to create a huge infrastructure, 20,000 square meters, creative space to help creative youth to develop their potential, private film schools. I am the graduate of GIG Institute for Film Industry, but this Institute of Cinema is different from what it was some 20 years ago. And the future is future lies in the schools of Fyodor Bondarchuk, at the projects of Gevont, Andreasyan. These schools provide practical knowledge, and these schools allow people to get profession, to stay in this profession. These are modern cinema schools. Many directors learn in Russian Cinema Institute of GIG, but they cannot even make short film. But we have this format of modern. We create, we produce people, directors, clip makers. This is very live, mobile format. This is construction process. This is a long story, but I hope that we can succeed. We also have venture foundation. I hope that we can attract them to join these efforts. Thank you for being part of this session. And these new things, new communications, new resources are added to this project, and we hope we can succeed. And another important issue is transport accessibility. For example, you may take a 2 hours flight to St. Petersburg with no infrastructure, or you may take a 2 hours flight here with in full infrastructure. You can work. And also we have been discussing the idea of tourist routes with Ministry of Tourism. And when I asked, what would you like to bring into this? And Gevont shared this thing with me. I'm building a village in Prostokvashino. It costs money. If you had this village, I would not spend my own money to create this Prostokvashino village, because I won't need it after the project ends. But if you have some facilities, some infrastructure, if we have different locations, for example, if we miss this and that, and if we have a convenient infrastructure with hotels, with amenities, with places to eat, and if you give me some kind of discount, I could use your infrastructure, and I would be happy to use your infrastructure instead of creating from scratch my hospitals and whatever I need. And now we have been discussing this with the Ministry of Tourism, with so that we could create these decorations for all year round, that can be used all year round, and this could be rented to different film studios, and these could become the centers of attraction for tourists, for professionals. For example, we could create some prison or castle or whatever we need for different movies. We could build it once and we could use it multiple times. And this could work for tourism, for creative industries, for film industry, and we could save money and we could develop this market. We could save money for our producers. So this project, this idea gets more and more flesh. And I hope that during this investment forum we can gain new support from the government, and we could realize this project in cooperation with Republican authorities. I would like also to add, Alexei is very passionate, and I didn't want to interrupt him, but he mentioned one horrible word, English words, and we do not explain their meanings. We need rebate of 100 million. I'm not sure that all of you know what is a rebate. What is a rebate? This is a tax return. When film company spends 100 millions, it can return 15 millions. When we were shooting films in the US, we had a tax return of 29%. I'd like to emphasize that this is the way of developing regions. We even if they give us this tax rebate, we create jobs and we create infrastructure, and this is global practice, and it would work better if we had this ready-made infrastructure, because it is not efficient to use this tax rebate, tax return, and spend it on creating infrastructure from scratch. And one small example, when we were creating the job affair, this is a remake, the corporate celebration in a Turkish hotel. We were shooting film there. The Turkish party took upon all the expenses, travel expenses, hotel accommodation, and we saved about $500,000. And Turks built new hotel over this year, and they explained that they generated the flow of tourists, and they attract groups of tourists. And Adam and Eve Hotel, this hotel where the film was shot, it became major tourist attraction, and people pay $20 admission fee, and they generated more money from and people always want to see new things, and this is the magic of the cinema, which we sell to our viewers. This is a separate line of direction, line of development for regions. And another aspect we should mention, not an abstract idea of cinema industry, but when we attract serious players with their major projects, we should create infrastructure with the prospects of developing local cinema industry, this is the essence, this is the meaning, the key meaning, because we have to create community that would live in this space, that would use. Well, we create the chain. We have to create some educated team, and then we could give them. We help them attract orders. If we bring 150 persons team from Moscow and bringing them here, we do not develop local industry. But if we hire a local team, we create this. when we were shooting our films in the US, when you're negotiating with LA or with someone in any state, you get some 10 people, and then you attract a local teamwork in all, and then you create professional staff in different regions, and this is what is in the US. But we have to use this experience and do the same thing here in Russia. We have to create the teams of professionals in different regions of Russia. We should not bring a team from Moscow to different regions. We have to develop local teams. And when we create high quality TV series, if we create the first season, then you can you can attract money from local authorities to create second season, third season. So we have to be more flexible in this business. Sometimes I initiate projects, investing my own money, and then I present it to someone and say, look, I have generated this project. It works great. And you just, over a short time, you can create some result, and then you can attract people, and you create this flexible system. We should be agile, more agile, come all together. And we can reach the situation after 3 or 4 years when we have local teams of professionals, regional teams of professionals in different areas. And what is the most important? We always are in contact with venture foundations. I hope we will have these flying automobiles and different projects. What is good about Republican projects? They can attract leaders, and they give them freedom of action. They trust them, and leaders in different industries, in different markets. My task is really simple. I can combine strong leaders, give them tools, give them freedom, and they could succeed using their professional experience. They could build this cinema cluster, and I hope God help us, and God will help us. And thank you for attention, for your time, for your attention. Thank you for being with us. The speaker is not using microphone. There is a question being asked, but there is no microphone. Therefore, we can only translate the answer.